The gray rock sits alone in the middle of a gaseous sea of dark purple. The next dominant landmass lies over 40 kilometers away from the rock. As soon as the thin purplish water crashes upon the rock's jagged surface, it evaporates into the nearby drifting debris of asteroids. No organisms live on this roughly hewn mass or in the vast sea that encircles it. 80 kilometers in the distance, a small planetoid slowly floats by. A light greenish energy starts to flow from out of the gray rock's surface. The energy crackles and courses its way from the rock's mass, entrapping and halting the small planetoid's movement. Spiked tendrils slowly seep out of the tiny pores in the rock's jagged surface. The green energy diminishes as the tendrils enwrap themselves around the planetoid. Methodically, the tendrils pull the mass painstakingly to the gray rock. The tendrils begin to pulsate and swell. A thick reddish liquid starts to emanate from out of the soft, swollen pores and spreads over the entirety of the planetoid's surface. Then, the energy starts to form a circle around the planetoid. The energy changes into a golden haze and descends over the planetoid's surface. Rays of white light issue forth from the golden-stained planetoid, encircling and engulfing its surface. The reddish liquid covering the planetoid's surface begins to foam and bubble with an intense heat from the blinding white rays of light. The foam changes to an orange steam as it dissipates into the dark purple sea until it is completely gone and the planetoid alters its surface, taking on a red hue. The golden haze disappears, and the tendrils retreat back into the soft pores along the rock's jagged surface. The planetoid drifts toward the large rock. A light emanates forth from the rock's surface. Then, under the intense pressure from the gravity of the large rock, the planetoid starts to break apart. Large chunks that had once constituted its mass begin to separate. Only one tiny piece remains of the planetoid beneath the large rock. The tendrils enwrap the remains of the planetoid, bringing it closer to the rock's surface. Once there, the rock begins to tremor until the tendrils finally release the small mass, returning back inside the pores of the large rock's surface. A quiet voice issues forth from the large rock. Only more debris to be found in the vastness of the multiverse? Is there not one shred of sentient life to be found? Must I always endure lesser forms? Nevertheless, I will imbue this non-sentient rock with the ability to think. Perhaps this minuscule rock will provide me with the companionship that I so desperately seek, and end my long-suffering loneliness. A bluish light slowly seeps out from the large rock's center and begins to leak down. The light devours the small rock's form until it is no longer visible. Then, the light dissipates and exposes the small rock's gray surface once again. The quiet voice conveys, "So, now you exist and feel like I do. You are now a sentient creature to provide me with the companionship I have endlessly sought since the beginning of the creation. Express yourself however you may. Do you feel the fires of loneliness growing and building up inside?" Another voice, not so quiet, issues forth from the small rock. "I feel as I have always felt, alone, just like you, except I could never communicate it with another until now, until you gave me my voice." The large rock conveys, "And now that you have this voice I have released from within you, do you feel a certain kind of freedom with it? Are your thoughts jumbled?" "No, my thoughts are as they always have been, ordered and centered, but there is one question I have." "What question?" The small rock answers, "Now that you have given me the ability to express my thoughts and feelings to other sentient creatures, do I call you my creator?" "No, I see that we are equal in our thought patterns. That is one reason I chose that certain part from the planetoid you were once part of in which to grant consciousness. Now that you are, I no longer have to endure my loneliness." The small rock says, "I understand now that you freed my voice to communicate with you. You solely sought a companion in the vastness. But I could never stay here with you. I must venture and explore with my expanded consciousness. I am too heavy to move my own weight, and so I must stay here all alone. Where will you go?" The small rock conveys, "Beyond the last star. Then, I do not know. Maybe until I reach some kind of end, or simply fall apart. Or die of loneliness. Perhaps. just assuredly as you will do sitting here in your dark purple gaseous sea, as the way it should be. You are fortunate in that way, to follow your desires that lead to new experiences and growth. Binding are the ties that you must feel, the small rock responds. Teach me something new before you leave. The voice of my consciousness tells me that my purpose is to join in with other voices, to add my own sound to the chorus of the consciousness collective. The large rock says, to contribute to the harmony, chaos, and the reverberations, to affect and influence others, and to have them affect and influence you in return. Perhaps you will be affected by others in how they reflect your thoughts and ideas. With the communication of that final bit of information, the small rock departs.